Welcome back to NBA Cinema, guys. So we got to talk about it as I seen Paul Pierce, say that he's the best scorer of all times. And they asked him some names, and now he's coming out and saying he's better than some of the top names to ever score the basketball. And I would assume he's talking about the amount of ways you can score, which he still entered into delusion, and we're going to get into that later. But I would never take away from Paul Pierce's ability to get to the elbow, that mid-range, how good he is. And, he's second to none pulling up at that elbow. I like the way Paul Pierce did that, could shoot from beyond the arc and everything. We're going to listen to what he had to say, guys, because I have to point out some facts, and we got to go back and look at the history of the game just a little bit, when he's talking about some of this stuff. But let's peep it.
LeBron is the greatest, the leading scorer of all time in NBA history. But I think even you would admit there's things about Kevin's game you wish you had.
Yeah, for sure.
One of the most smoothest, most efficient scorers we've ever had. Like, is there anyone that can do it at every level?
Not to the capacity he's done it. And I was reading a stat earlier, the fact that he hasn't, I don't want to speak like you're not here, but he's so great. I like to do it sometimes.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
He hasn't shot under 50% since like 2012. And in a league that doesn't talk about efficiency enough, because I'm one of those efficiency guys. Like I hate going out there just chucking up shots or, looking at the box score and I was maybe 8 for 23 or 9 for 25 or 6 for 18. Like, you're going to have those nights for sure.
Yeah.
But for the majority of the season, like, being efficient, is something I've always prided myself on. And this guy is, when it comes to three-level score, three-pointers, mid-range, below the Gary Payton area, below the Malone area, and finishing. It's we haven't had a scorer as equipped as KD in our league ever.
Appreciate that.
Ever.
I was probably the best pure scorer ever in the history of the game, because I was pretty equipped. When I think about it, I'm just saying, like,
Could you pull up from the elbow?
I need to be in this conversation.
Could you pull up from the elbow?
I got
Could you
all
knock
that.
down the three?
All that.
Could you back him
Three-point
down?
contest
Could you
champ.
turn around?
All of that. Post ups.
Could you dunk?
All of that. I was shoot, and I must have been one of the most equipped. Look, here we go. Boom. Who's this? I'm to the rack.
Okay.
3 people.
I
Get
ain't got to
that.
show a Laker highlight, but I get it.
Yeah, look. Oh, let me see. Go over your head.
Oh, that's pretty.
Come on.
Yeah, that's
this is
pretty.
This is equipped. Oh, you want game winners? Wop, wop, wop. Here we go. Like, I'm trying to figure out
What was your efficiency?
Yeah, like, I think, when he's talking about his efficiency, because I shot more bad shots than Kevin.
Yeah, you was just
For
hot
sure.
dogging. You wasn't as clean.
No, I shot more bad shots. But Kevin, because he's 7 feet, he can get his shot off on anybody. He don't really see defense. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's why he's so efficient. There's nobody at his height on the perimeter. He changed the way we look at perimeter. He pretty much changed the game on the perimeter. Like, being a 7'2" guard, you know what I'm saying? That's like, come on, the biggest 2 guard when I came in was like 6'5", 6'6".
Dirk was what, a 3?
Dirk was a 4 man.
Was he a 4?
Yeah, he's 7. He playing center. He a center playing at the point guard, 2 guard. You know what I'm saying? So all his matchups and the way he shoot the ball and get to the ball, he efficient with it. So I can see why LeBron would say that. But shoot, you got to put me in that talk when we talk about most equipped scorers now. Come on, Bron.
So now they go on to ask Paul Pierce behind the scenes on the set of Speak some names of some of the top scorers we've ever seen come through the league, and this is what he had to say.
Paul Pierce or Michael Jordan? I can score more ways than Michael Jordan. Paul Pierce or Allen Iverson? I can score more ways than Allen Iverson. Paul Pierce or Kevin Durant? That's a close one, too. I think I got a little more post game than Kev. We got a lot of the same arsenal, but I got him a little bit. Paul Pierce or Steph Curry? Oh, yeah, I can do more offensively than Steph. Paul Pierce or James Harden? My midi is better than James. My post game is better than James. Even on threes, going to the rack, Paul Pierce. Paul Pierce or T-Mac? Now, that one was close. Wow. Man, T-Mac is amazing. He can post up. He can do a lot of things down screen, off the dribble. Damn. I got to the line more than him. I'll take him with me. Last one, Paul Pierce or LeBron James?
This is not even a conversation.
So, all right, let me do this because one of the things that bothers me is how they talk about the 3-point shot. In 1979, 1980, that's when the 3-point line was introduced to the NBA, right? Let me go to Larry Bird because everybody know he a good shooter. You know, I think everybody across all eras recognize Larry Bird as one of the elite shooters from three. 1980, 1981, 0.9 threes per game, 27 from the arc, 27% from the arc. 0.7 threes, 81, 82, 21%. 1 3 a game, 29%. And so he wasn't shooting volume. You really didn't get an indicator. But when he started shooting well over 1 3 a game, and he did it once, in 79, 80, he shot 41%. But after that, he was shooting over 1 3 a game, and it was all 40s after that. Elite 3-point shooting. My point in saying that is, you can't really gauge some of these guys because they didn't shoot a lot. And so when I go to Michael Jordan, I want to use Larry Bird because everybody recognizes him as a 3-point shooter, right? Jordan, his rookie year, 0.6 threes per game, 17%. 16%, right over 1. Then he goes back under 1, 13%, 18%, but when we get to where Jordan takes 2.8 threes a game for a season, he shot 38%. The next time he takes over 2 threes a game, 35%. Then later on, when towards the end of his career, or the end of his Bulls career, right? He took 3 a game twice, 43% from the arc, 37% from the arc. So with volume, if they shot as many as the guys shot today, it proves to us that they shoot at a similar clip, most of these guys, right? Most of these elite guys. So that I want to point that out because a lot of times they say, oh, they couldn't shoot threes back then as well. And they might point to Jordan's percentage. But look at when it was introduced to the game. Look at those guys starting to shoot the three more into the 90s, heading towards the 90s. And then you get a true gauge of how well they can shoot three. You can't just look at Jordan's 84-85 season and think about who he was as a 3-point shooter. Because a lot of times, I'm going to tell you the truth, if you was coming up back then, the coach looked at a 3-pointer as a bad shot, especially a contested one. You only shot those wide open. You didn't just take a bunch of threes. Like Harden, yeah, he can shoot 40%, but he can also go 2 for 19 in a game. And that'll be about what some of these guys took in those earlier seasons in the 80s. They might take 19 threes for a season. So you can't gauge it that way. And so when I think about that, I just want to point that out because it's a lot of misinformation out there about how well these guys shot from the arc and what they could do on volume. Now, Paul Pierce, again, he could post up, he could score. And Paul Pierce is one of the guys, I would even tell a young player, you start talking about mid-range scoring and a amount of ways you can use your body to create space and stuff like that. Paul Pierce is one of the guys that I will point you in the direction of now. But to say he's the best scorer ever, Michael Jeffrey Jordan, man. There's no way in the world Paul Pierce can feel like he can score the ball in more ways than Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant. Or because they ain't even ask him Kobe, I don't think, in that either. But T-Mac is the one you say that you don't know, because that's a tough one. Michael Jordan's efficiency, the amount of times he got to the line, his post game, his mid-range game, then you couple that with his athleticism, explosive first step. You can't even get to the places on the floor Michael Jordan can get to. That his first step, a young Dwayne Wade first step was kind of similar, but even that, Michael Jordan's first step, and then you have to think about things like ball control. Michael Jordan's hands are bigger than Kawhi Leonard's hands. And I want to say that because that's kind of like the separator between him and Kobe. One of the things that separates them. That's why Jordan can do all those things in the air he can do with the basketball. Feels like a baseball in his hand. And so he can do all types of things with one hand in the air, absorb contact, and still shoot it with one hand on the ball because his hands, and they talk about Kawhi being the claw, Jordan's hands is actually bigger than Kawhi's. He got, I think, top 10 biggest hands of all time in the league, and that stuff matters. When you're talking about getting deflections, getting steals, all those defensive player of the years, and all that stuff that he was able to achieve, is because he's built freakishly with those long limbs and those long hands and stuff like that. Man, all that matters when you're breaking down some of the things you can do on the offensive and defensive end of the floor. But yeah, man, I don't know, Paul Pierce, better scorer than some of those guys. When you start talking about LeBron and them, I would have loved to have seen LeBron be able to spot score more like Paul Pierce does. Like it's getting late into a game, just dribble to the elbow and rise up. Don't look for a pass and say you made the right play. Get to a spot. And so that's what the elite guys can do late in the game. Like no matter where you at, I'm going to take you right here and rise up and live with the results. And they could create, a little bit of separation most times. And if they did pass, it was for an open layup or an open jumper or something. It won't like how Kyrie had to still kind of create something in the corner and knock a shot down. You know what I'm saying? But LeBron, even LeBron as a scorer getting to the rim, I guess when you start defining greatest scorer, I guess is how you look at it. Is it how deep my bag is or how much I can do what I'm good at with regularity? How consistently can I do that? And the truth is probably somewhere in between. It don't matter if my bag ain't as deep as yours if you can't stop what I'm doing. I think bag gets misconstrued or gets overblown sometimes with efficiency and how good you are offensively. If you can't stop Kareem Skyhook, I don't need to be shooting threes like Wemby behind the arc. You see what I'm saying? So it's going to be one of those things where how efficient are you? Can they stop it? Because I look at that. Because I'll just go to the thing you can't stop, if that was me. But if they can stop it or, a new defense implemented, do you have counters to go to? And Jordan, Kobe, those guys, they had counters. And I think Paul Pierce sometimes could trip over his own feet. I don't think he remember us seeing that. Not that Paul Pierce didn't have counters, but his feet weren't as good as those guys' feet. And so, yeah, man, I could go on and on about this topic, but I did kind of want to show that. I know they hold the 3-pointers against the old players a lot. KD, he's a awesome scorer. I didn't like his era where he was doing the rip through to get free throw shots because I thought he was bypassing building his strength up, to be able to absorb contact and doing a workaround by just bringing his arms under the defender. And that would kind of come from Chris Paul as well, but I didn't like that era. I didn't like Harden going to the lane, snatching his arms real low and coming up where the defender had rights to have their arms, and getting those foul calls. So I sometimes, when you start talking about scores from this era, I don't want to say I put an asterisk beside it, but I think some of the rules overly favors them. Because the defender used to be entitled to some of that space. If you create that contact, snatching your arms up like Harden, and you shoot all those free throws, it's a reason why you don't play well in the playoffs. I'll put it like that. If you're a player like that, it's a reason that you have terrible performances because a lot of your stuff is dependent on officiating, bailing you out of tough situations. So I don't even rate Harden as that type of scorer like that all time. He can score the ball, but I think we see whenever the game is called in a more physical way, and they're letting things go, he struggles because he's waiting for the ref to give him the call to shoot the free throws. And so when I see that, and especially in the postseason, you can't rate like that, in my opinion. But yeah, man, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Till next time, peace.